Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode that I know you guys are going to absolutely love and be buzzing about. Today, I have a dear friend that I have known for years and years, and I have watched him transform people's lives, step into his power in a massive way, and show up and inspire every single person that comes into his path. He is absolutely crushing it online, offline, in his relationships, in his friendships, and in his business. So, with no further ado, welcome to the show, Lewis. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
Yes, and I am so excited to just dive right into this because as we were first talking, I was going to get started and share with you something that I read that I know that you would love and appreciate because I know you're such a deep thinker and so faith-based. And I was it was yesterday and I was on ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, if I was the devil, how would I destroy the current landscape of the world? And it went into so much detail that was absolutely heartbreaking. And actually, it talked about how it would create division, how it would make people feel like they're not enough, how it would keep people scrolling and addicted, how it would isolate people, how it would make people believe that they know everything and that they're free and that they're capable, but really know nothing and be controlled. And it just sounded, unfortunately, like something that was happening in society today. And then I asked ChatGPT, if I was God and I wanted to empower, inspire, and uplift this generation, what would I do? And I was literally, Lewis, I am not kidding, bawling my eyes out when I read this yesterday because I was like, we need more light workers like you, like people in the world that are lifting people up, that are doing this work. And it talked about healing trauma, and it talked about creating a strong relationship with yourself, and it talked about self-love and love for other people, and it was just the most beautiful response. And I just want to ask you, like, what do you think about that, and how does that show up in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think ChatGPT it's pretty amazing what it can do, but I actually did the exact same thing and I was blown away by the response because it was a reflection in a mirror of what today's society is. I do believe that the enemy, the devil, will show us and tell us what he's going to do before he does it. And we live in a society where we're so numbed that it's right in front of us and we ignore it. We're chasing that dopamine. We're chasing, things that are of this world that are, just short-lived, and more importantly, ego. Ego is the biggest self-destruction, and that's what it is. And you mentioned that we get to a place where we feel like we know everything.
Yeah. And you are so good at embodying when ChatGPT talked about how to uplift, inspire, and heal the world. How do you do it? Like, you're so centered and grounded in who you are. How do you do that?
Yeah, the first thing for me, I do believe that everybody has to have a good foundation. I build my foundation on Christ. I am a Christ believer, a Christ follower, and a Christian. So building on a strong foundation is everything. I've tried to do this on my own and I was successful, what I thought was success. But, once, adversity started hitting, the downfall was just, it hurt and it hurt really bad, and God allowed me to be humbled. So once I started rebuilding myself, I realized that everything, just like construction, you got to build on a strong foundation. You got to have values. So for me, my values are, family, faith, fitness, finances, and obviously having fun. When you can start operating from those places, then you can start embodying everything that you want in life and start inspiring other people. And I think the best way to inspire people is by becoming it.
Yes. So how does somebody become it? And this is one thing that I think is so crucially important. If you want to get into the coaching space, the leadership space, the facilitation space, you have to walk the walk. And I want to ask you, you are such a embodiment of somebody that is living the work. How do you do that? And how do the listeners do that?
Yeah, you got to be a risk taker. You got to have a vision. You got to have a vision. I think God gave us all a purpose in life. And most people just ignore their purpose because they're so concentrated and so numb, seeking that validation from the world, and just drowning themselves in vices and other things that are not really serving that purpose. But once you start getting rid of the vices, once you start working on your mindset, start working on your body and start being grounded with what it is that you want in life, you can start hearing God's voice. And the best thing to do is have the vision, have a plan, and just like Tony Robbins says, take massive action by doing it. Just jump. And I think so many people have so much potential on becoming something great. And the reason they never go and chase their dream is because they're waiting for the right moment,
Mm.
waiting for the right time, the right environment, the right conditions. I always say the right moment was yesterday, and the best time to do it next is now. Like just jump,
Yeah.
just do it. A lot of us, when we get into entrepreneurship, we half the time we really don't even know what we're doing, but we have the vision, so half of the plan is there, and we figure out the rest as we go.
I love that. So, for somebody who is waiting for the right moment, what would you say to them?
Yeah, take a chance on yourself, bet on yourself. For me, I always bet on myself because I do have faith in God and I believe that God gave me a purpose. And if it's from God, first I do a prayer. And if it's from God, I'm going to go ahead and trust it. I don't have to have all the answers now. But if I trust myself enough to dig deep in myself and take action, God is going to align me with everything that I'm seeking.
I love that. And I love that you talked about taking action. How do people build that discipline to be able to take action? It's something you're so good at.
Yeah, I think having a routine, like a morning routine and rituals like that, super
Mm.
essential. You got to have a routine. The only way you're going to build habits is by having a routine. Without a routine, you're not going to have any habits, right? So once you start building that routine that you want, whatever it is that you're trying to go after, whether you're trying to, let's just say, for example, you're trying to get in shape, start building the habits of building yourself five crucial things that you can do today to be able to take that step forward, which is exercise, do my cardio, clean eat, maybe some type of personal development that's going to feed my mind too, because a strong mind equals a strong body, and also rest. If I can just check off those little things every single day, then I'm one step closer to that goal. So building a routine is essential. With the time, as time starts going by, you will build habits. And once you build a habit, it's almost as like you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just part of your day. It's what you do. Like for me, working out is just something I do. I don't think about it anymore. I don't struggle to do it because it's a lifestyle. It's a habit. It's no different than brushing my teeth.
I love it. And that is so true. The little wins, the little routines are what ultimately changes your life. So, how does somebody build a good routine? How does somebody build good habits?
Yeah, just trial and error. Build the plan, try it, stick to it. Again, small wins, I think is a great way to be able to condition yourself to get that confidence that you can do it. Most people give up because they think about the end result, right?
Yeah.
They're thinking about, if we're talking about fitness or thinking about losing the 30 pounds, the 50 pounds, instead of thinking to themselves, how can I lose 1 to 2 pounds in 1 week? If I could just
Mhm.
focus on that 1 to 2 pounds, then they start building momentum, right? So not every day is going to be a good day, but just keep showing up. Keep showing up regardless of how you feel. This is how, success becomes inevitable. It just
I love
becomes
it.
something that is just, it happens.
I love it. And you have built a wildly successful online business. And that came from getting knocked down and getting back up. And I want to know, I know that you've been open about some of the struggles you've had in your life. where did you find that strength to get back up? And how do you cultivate that resiliency to keep going?
Mhm, mhm. Again, you got to have a why. If you do not have a why that is strong enough for you to have that driving force to want to get up, you're not going to do it. I always say the transformation has to be mind, body, and soul. You got to be willing to transform the mind. If you can conquer the mind, you can conquer the body. If you can conquer the body,
Mm.
life, right? So having that vision, and I always tell people, if there's something, we hear this all the time, if it's something you can't stop thinking about, then that is your calling. Figure out a way to get close to people that are doing the exact same thing you want to do in life with our mentors. If hiring a mentor is in alignment with you, do that. If not, there's a lot of free resources that you can find, and just take action, build that routine, build those habits, and don't give up. Just keep showing up. I think we live in a world where people are operating off of emotion, right? Because, hey, sometimes you feel like going to the gym, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like waking up and working, sometimes you don't, right? But if you just keep doing the things you're supposed to do and stick to a blueprint, create a blueprint for yourself, then again, success just becomes a part of your life. I've never met anybody who ate better, who did some type of personal development, which is reading or conversating with someone who maybe has a skill set that they don't have, and more importantly, had a strong foundation in their faith that is not successful. You know?
Yeah, that is so true. And what did you do to build your business? Like, what is the foundation? What is the core? What are the principles that you followed to build such a wildly successful business?
Yeah, outside of mentors, I think mentorship is super important. For me, that literally took me to the next level. It was a shortcut to success. So just hiring people that are already living the type of life that you want to live, that have the type of results that you want, and seeing that as an investment and not a cost, I think that is step number one. But two, building on something that you believe in. A lot of people get into businesses because the money is great. They hear people that are, making great money doing certain skill sets, but if you're not passionate about it, you're never going to thrive in it. So for me, serving, having a life of service is what keeps me going. It started off with fitness. Later on, it transitioned into life coaching, which is now, and now I'm just passionate about talking about my faith and talking about how God worked in my life through my mind,
Mm.
through my body, and through my soul.
Yes, and I feel like that also comes from a point of pain and having to shift and go inward, and that deep, that soul-wrenching agony that just makes you realize you got to change your life. You got to find what you need to be able to shift. And when did you first realize that your pain was your purpose? And what how did you transmute that pain into your power?
Yeah, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot. And I think that is the point of life. The point of life to me, the purpose of life is the way that I view it through my lens is we're supposed to go through pain. We're supposed to go through adversity, challenges, so that way we can start becoming a better version of ourselves, heal ourselves, then show other people how to do the exact same thing, right? And this is when it becomes this is when you self-master. This is when you self-master, that's when you can start serving other people. For me, I mean, coming from an immigrant family, at a young age to the US. My life wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. I got molested from the age of 2 up to the age of roughly about 6. Yeah, and I was just a toddler, and I still remember a lot of it. And just things like that, growing up around gangs, drugs, and just a lifestyle that led to either being dead at the age of 21 or maybe being in prison, wasn't serving my purpose. But again, it was a painful upbringing. I ended up losing a child in a long-term relationship that I was in with my high school sweetheart. After that, my world just started crumbling. It just it's almost like when it rains, it pours. I ended up having to declare bankruptcy. I lost the child. I lost a 20-year relationship. I ended up going homeless. I was sleeping in a park, and my family didn't want to support me or help me, and I felt like I was alone. And at that moment, that's when I surrendered to Jesus, and I asked for guidance. As the time went on, and I started working on myself and started doing better, getting back on my feet, and I started living and embodying the healing process and understanding that a lot of the stuff that happened to me was out of my control, right? And it's not what happened to you, it's what you do with that pain to be able to propel you forward that really truly matters, right? That builds character. And once I started living that life of service and I started transforming people physically, that's when I realized, you know what? Everything that happened in my life had to happen the way that it did. Me losing a child was supposed to happen that way. I had to lose a child to be able to step into my power, to be able to help save lives. And that's what I do now.
Oh, they gave me goosebumps. And yeah, I just truly believe that everything in life happens for a reason. And sometimes we don't see it during our darkest days, but it becomes a beautiful rainbow once the rain has cleared. And I want to ask you, if your soul had a voice during that darkest moment, what would it have said to you?
Ah, keep going. Keep going.
Mm.
I know you don't understand what's happening, but keep going. Keep showing up. Just keep showing up. I think that is the hardest thing because, again, not every day is going to be a good day. And, when you understand energy, frequency, you understand that when you're at a low frequency, if you start sitting on that thought, it becomes depression. It becomes that you start sitting on. And once you allow that energy to start entering your body, your aura, it becomes your identity. And how many people never get out of that because they never change their identity? They are so tied to that identity that life is just the way it is. They're not meant to be happy. They're not meant to be successful. And, God left them and abandoned them.
Yeah.
That is a identity from the enemy. That is an identity that it's not serving your purpose, and that is not from God.
Wow, so powerful. Keep going. That is something that I think every single one of us needs to embody in every single cell of our existence when we're going through a challenging time. Things can seem so overwhelming. And when we just keep going, we keep showing up, we keep fighting for the goals and the dreams that buried deep in our heart, that is how we impact the world in a big way. And that is how we step into our power to inspire the world. And I wanted to ask you, what belief did you have to bury in order to rise?
For a long time, I used to tell myself that maybe I just was not meant to be happy. And
Mm,
that was part of my identity. And as you start going through life, when you start identifying yourself with that type of mindset, you start self-sabotaging your own success, your own relationships and opportunities. So that's something that I had to bury. I had to go through a lot of therapy myself, healing therapy, seeking my faith and just personal development to understand that I am worthy, that I am meant to be,
yeah.
and more importantly, understand that life really isn't about being happy. It's about being fulfilled. For me, fulfillment comes from serving other people and helping them overcome obstacles or maybe the same obstacles that I went through, whether it was a divorce, losing a child, or obesity, or just having financial freedom and truly changing their life. That's when my heart is truly happy. And that's what life should be about. Again, serving other people just like Jesus did.
I love that. So, what brought you to your knees, but also brought you home to yourself?
Yeah, after I lost the child, this was roughly about 15 years ago. I remember life was hitting me hard, and I contemplated suicide. And right when I was going to do it, I was going to slice my wrist. And when I did, I remember I started praying. I got on my knees and I started praying. And that was the first time in a very long time. I didn't believe in God at that time. I just thought God was just this made up story. I got on my knees and I humbled myself and I started talking to God, and I was saying something along the lines of like, God, I don't know why this is happening, but if you want me to go through this, help me. Please help me because I can't do this alone. And at that moment, I felt like the Holy Spirit just picked me up, and it was something I can't explain. But that was my second chance. And that's when I was like, okay, I was meant to be here.
Wow, so powerful. I could feel that. And what was the illusion that you had to shatter to feel free, to feel back to yourself, to keep going, to rise up? What was that illusion that you had to say goodbye to?
Yeah. After that, I went all into my goals. I started becoming successful in the fitness industry. I started making a lot of money, building my empire and everything. And then again, I ended up getting humbled by life. And that's when I was like, hey, God, it's me again. I need you. I need you. And that's when I truly understood what building a relationship with God is. It's not just a belief system, it's really having a relationship with your Father and understanding that you got to seek Him first. And if you seek Him, and live in righteousness, everything that your heart desires will be added to you. That's when I started rebuilding myself. And the one thing that I had to let go of and kind of shatter that illusion was that I had something to prove for such a
Mm.
we see this a lot in the business space. We have that chip on our shoulder, and we want more and more and more and more, and there's no fulfillment at the end of the day. And I think that's not a good way to live. It's literally you're chasing after a fantasy that you're never gonna fulfill because there's no end result. Now, I do believe that there's power in chasing the next version of yourself. And especially us men, we're meant to grow. But at some point, you have to understand that you have nothing to prove. You're already it. Like you're it. When you start embodying that person that you want to become, that most highest, most elevated, most beautiful version of who you want to become, that 10.0 version of who you want to become, you embody that, then that's when you truly start stepping into your true power. That's when you start speaking your truth.
Yes, your unapologetic truth. And what would the most unapologetic version of you say to the world right now?
People are watching. Your people depend on you. There's people
Mm.
that are looking at you as inspiration, as a leader. What you do today doesn't just impact you, it also impacts other people. So, whatever it is that you decide to do in life, do it at your best ability and do it with love.
Yes, and whatever you decide to do becomes your legacy. And what is the legacy that you want to leave in people's hearts?
Yeah. I want to embody as a man, I want to embody a warrior of God. It's interesting.
Mm.
A lot of people refer to me on social media as the man of God, the man of God, and it's become like a niche or a slogan that I've been labeled by. But I always tell people, for me, I don't consider myself a man of God. I consider myself a warrior of God. I was here to go through the battles, and I'm here to show people that anything and everything is possible if you build on a strong foundation and you have faith. Anything that you want in life, you can accomplish, whether it's your family, building a legacy, building a business, conquering your body, whatever it is, you can achieve it.
Yes, you can achieve that future self, that future dream, that vision that you are embodying, that you want to bring to life. And if your future self visited you right now, what would they thank you for? What would they say to you? What would be that conversation? If you could speak to your future self, what would that sound like?
That's a good question. I would like to think, because how I do one thing is how I do everything in life. I would think that he would look at me and say, "Hey, kid, we're here because of you. We're here because of you, because you kept going, because you believed in yourself. So thank you."
Wow, so powerful. I think believing in yourself is one of the most important skills that you can cultivate in life. And what does somebody need to do in order to cultivate a rock solid, indestructible belief system about themselves and their future?
Yeah. I think it all ties down to identity. Your identity is a reflection of your results in life. Your current life right now is a reflection of what you believe you're worth, what you believe you are meant to tolerate. So, if you want to better yourself, if you want a better life and you want to make those major breakthroughs, then you have to start changing the way you speak about yourself, the way you think about yourself, and start embodying the person who you want to become. I think a lot of people, when they think of themselves as, that future version of themselves as like the successful version, they feel like an imposter because they feel like they're not there yet.
Mm.
But that's where you have to make the flip. That person is you, and you can become that person right now. You just have to start
Yes.
thinking like him. You got to start acting like him, and you have to take action just like him. So start thinking to yourself, that future version of myself, the most highest, most elevated 10.0 version of myself, what would he do right now? How would he tackle this situation that I'm facing?
Yes, I have to echo that from the rooftops. That is something that drives my life every single day. I think about it, I meditate on it, I talk about it, I journal it. Every single day, the two things that drive my life that have been the foundation of anything good in my life is number one, knowing who I need to be today that's in alignment with my future self? Who is the Brittany 10.0 version of me that I need to show up for? What are the decisions I need to make? What are the things that need to come out of my mouth? Who do I need to surround myself by? What are the actions that I need to take? And the second thing that drives me is knowing my why and thinking about it all day, knowing I was put here on earth to impact people in a positive, massive, impactful way keeps me going. And so I want to ask you, what does that 10.0 version of you look like? What is it that we should be striving for? What in your own terms, what does that look like?
Are you asking me personally, like, what does my version look like?
Yes. What does that
Well,
10.0 Lewis version look like? What
yeah.
inspires you? What lights your soul on fire?
It's crazy because everything that I have right now is everything that I prayed for. So the
Mm.
life that I'm living right now is the best chapter of my life so far.
What?
Everything and anything that a man can ever desire. I have health, I have wealth, I have a family, I have a good foundation, I've got everything. So I think the future version or the 10.0 version of myself is someone who is learning to be a little bit more present. And more importantly, I keep asking God to change my heart in the sense of like, I'm really hard on people because life was really hard on me. And I think I have to be a little bit more compassionate with other people and understand that, we're all fighting our own battles. And that's
Yeah.
life has really start to help me with. And even like all the newer clients that I'm getting, like I started coaching, believe it or not, a lot of my clientele is females now, so I have to be a little bit more gentle, and and it's a little bit of a different ball game, but it's teaching me so much about character, building character, and being more compassionate to others. And that is, it's good because it centers me, it grounds me a little bit more, and I feel like it makes me stronger as a man.
I love that. And what did you have to stop apologizing for to step into this version of you? I was so inspired when you were talking about how you were living your dream life. And I agree. I remember meeting you years and years and years ago. We both were in a very different point in our life. We were working on ourselves, we were working on our business. I don't know if we were where we wanted to be yet, but after years of hard work, look at us now. I feel the same as you. I feel like so much of what I've wished for and prayed for has come into fruition. And I think manifesting is a very interesting word because I think you have to work hard and manifest at the same time. I think manifest is having the positive thoughts, envision what you want, but you also got to work your butt off every single day, which is what we have done.
Mhm.
And I feel like we've really done that. And so, what did you have to stop apologizing for to really become this full life that of happiness and joy and of empowerment and inspiration, everything that you've created?
Yeah. That's a great question. I had to stop apologizing for who I am. For a long time, and a lot of people do this, people are people pleasers,
Mm.
right?
Oh my
You're
gosh.
afraid of speaking your truth. You're afraid of speaking your mind. You're afraid of doing the unknown, right? Because it's uncomfortable to, speak that or to make other people uncomfortable. And it gets to a point where you just have to say, F this. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. You're either with me or not. And if you're not, that's okay. I'm still headed that way. And I think once you stick to your guns and start just becoming more authentic to your true self, that's when you start truly impacting other people. Otherwise, you're giving them a watered down version of who you are.
Mm.
I think there's always room for growth. And as you start going, and again, this is why for me, having faith is so important to me, because as I start walking my journey, the Holy Spirit will start, guiding me on the things that I have to repair and I have to correct with my character, right? And the things that are not serving me. This is what discernment is. As you start going through life, you start shedding some of that old version of yourself, but you start evolving into who you were meant to become. And if you never start speaking your truth, you're never going to truly impact others the way that you were meant to do it.
Yes, 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 yes. Guys, rewind that and listen to that again. That is powerful. I think my biggest breakthrough in life came when I stopped caring what other people thought about me. I stopped the imposter syndrome. I stopped the little voice in my head that was so worried. Oh, what will people think if I say this? What will people say if I do that? And I just lived my truth. It is the most freeing feeling that you can possibly have when you just sink into your body, you just sink into your heart, and you know you're a good person. You know you act in integrity. Nobody else can touch you. And how does somebody and how did you cultivate this confidence in yourself where you just stopped caring what people thought about you?
Yeah. Um, and again, I think it comes with the package of working on yourself. When you start bettering your mind, your thoughts, your body, and you start speaking life into yourself through affirmations and changing that narrative in your head, changing that belief system, you start getting some confidence and you start going out into the world and you start attracting better results. And with time, that starts giving you that confidence that you need to be able to start speaking your truth.
And how did you start speaking your truth? Was it an evolution? Was it a mindset shift? What had to happen?
Yeah, yeah. I got on social media, I picked up the phone and started speaking my mind. And a lot of it wasn't nice at first. And as I started going through the journey, I started realizing, okay, maybe I could have said that a little better, but the message was still there. And again, it's not going to be perfect when you first start. Nothing is ever perfect, right? But as you start going through the journey, you start going through that evolution, then you start kind of picking and choosing the things that serve your purpose and things that don't. There's a lot of things that I said a year ago that I don't agree with anymore. I'm never going to apologize
Mm.
for it because that's what I believed at that point, and that's who I was. And I'm always going to be true to myself. But it doesn't mean that that's who I have to be today. I'm a better version now. And the only reason that I'm a better version now is because I spoke that truth. And as I went through the journey, I realized, you know what? There's probably a better way to do this, but I'm on the right track. I just got to clean it up a little bit.
Yes. And the word I wrote down that came to me was evolution. It
Mhm.
is such a beautiful part of this journey, of my journey, of your journey, of the listener's journey. And it is okay to give ourselves grace to evolve, to outgrow our old belief systems, to outgrow our old way of doing business, to outgrow our old self that got us to the glass ceiling. And to break through that glass ceiling, we need a new set of belief systems, and we need a new set of actions, and we need a new set of habits and truths. And what were those truths that had to change to get to where you are now? What is that creed in your life? That level of, what was that evolution like? And how did that happen?
Yeah, for me, since I was a kid, I always thought to myself, and I always knew that I was meant for more. I was meant for more. So if you're in a place where you feel like this reality that you're living right now is not your identity, this is not where you're supposed to be, then there's probably some truth behind that. You know, you're supposed to do more, you're meant for more. So this is where you have to take action and start taking the steps towards that breakthrough to be able to do that. And that was my journey. That was my journey. Every step of the way, I embraced it and I realized that, you know, I'm making progress, but this is not where I want to be. And I just kept seeking that personal development, just kept working on myself. And I think you always have to be humble enough to understand that there's always room for growth.
Yes, yes. Wow, I am loving this interview. So many truth bombs. And what do you believe now that your old self would have never understood? As you grow, as you evolve, what do you believe that your old self would have questioned?
The only thing between the life that you want and your current situation is you and the action that you're taking today.
Mm. Wow, powerful. And if your soul had one mission in one sentence, if you were put on earth for one mission and God brought you here to do one thing in one sentence, what would it be?
Hmm, that's a great question. To embody the life of Christ through love.
Mm. And is that self love? Is it love for other people? And how does that capacity to be in your heart space, to love, how does that show up for you in your life? And what does that do for your life?
Yeah, it's growth. It shows up as growth because even the hard situations, like for example, apologizing for when maybe you felt like you were in the right place and you might have hurt someone's feelings. Apologizing, being the bigger person, that's a sign of love. You know, just inviting other people into your circle who are struggling, who maybe don't have the resources to be where you're at. That's a kindness act of love, right? And more importantly, just realizing that every opportunity that you really have is a moment to be able to showcase love, because love is the answer. Love is the answer. And
Mm.
again, it's what we all thrive on and what we all want. We just want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to feel like we matter. We all do.
Yes, yes, yes. And I just I feel like when I see people and they have these powerful transformations, one of the biggest things that I notice is they go from in their head, busy, anxiety, stressed out, overthinking, underthinking, overperforming, underperforming, in their head, and what causes this soul expanding transformation, life changing shift that just rocks their world and lights their soul on fire is when they drop into their heart space and start operating from love, not from jealousy, not from anger, not from lack, not from insecurity, but operating from love. And that is something I think you do in every area of your life. And how and why do you do that? Like, what is that? What is that why? What is that feeling? Or like, how do you show up with like so much love for yourself? You have so much confidence and you have so much charisma, and you speak with certainty, and there's so many amazing things that you do operating from love. And how does that show up for you?
Yeah. For me, I think once you start understanding the frequency chart, you start understanding how frequency is tied to results and action. So when you're talking about anger and jealousy, those are all low frequencies, right? You can never be your true authentic self at a low frequency because you don't feel like yourself. But when you're operating from love and you start acting, from a place of service and servicing other people, that's when you start stepping into flow state. When you step into flow state, that's when I truly believe that you are operating from the person that God has called you to be, right? This is when time doesn't matter. This is where you're truly giving it your all, and you're just whatever it is that you decide to do, whether you're a musician, you're singing from the heart, you're drawing, and everything's just flowing, and it's just life just flows.
Yes, and that flow state is where the magic happens. How do you get yourself into flow state?
Mhm. For me, when I wake up, most of the time, I don't, I like sleep, but I do wake up really early. So I wake up around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I don't want to wake up, right? But when I do wake up, I start with a morning prayer. I start with a workout, whether I'm doing cardio, going out for a run, a jog, or even burpees, push up, something to elevate my heart rate. What happens is it starts raising my frequency. Now, my thoughts start changing. So when I get up, I'm normally at a low vibration. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't want to wake up. But as I'm going through my day and I'm seeking that intimacy with God, I'm downloading information. And as I'm going through the HIIT workout that I'm doing, I'm raising, my vibration, releasing endorphins. And, I start feeling alive. And we always feel this at the gym. We start feeling more alive. That's when I write like the best captions. That's when I have like the best CTAs. That's when I have like the best message, for people, because I'm going, at a higher frequency. I'm starting to get into flow state, and servicing other people is how I get to flow state. So for me, it's love, then it's service, then it's flow state.
Yes, that flow state, the downloads, the energy that's created is just magnetic. It is off the chart. And I just totally echo that. And you've been able to create so many loving relationships in your life, including your wife. Congratulations. And I wanted to ask you, who did you have to become in order to cultivate such a healthy, thriving marriage?
Yeah. When I was overweight, and after I lost, the child, and I contemplated suicide, I remember I was in a park and I got a piece of paper. And this is when I came up with what I call the blueprint. And the blueprint was pretty much changing my identity. I felt like I had to recreate myself. And I started writing down this 10.0 version of myself. So when I initially started writing everything down, I was creating the most highest, most elevated version of myself as a movie star. I wanted someone who was fit, someone who was successful, someone who was good looking. And again, someone who was in a career driven space where I was thriving. And I just started embodying everything. I started, seeking that relationship with God. And I realized that everything that I was becoming was exactly what God wanted me to become. But I had to stand on those core values, right? Those traditional values. Once you start drifting away from that, then that's when self-destruction starts to happen. So once I started realizing what God was calling me to be, and more importantly, believe it or not, I got my Bible here. Once I started reading my Bible and understanding what a Ephesians 5 man is, as a man, as a husband, as a leader, as a provider, as a protector, I started realizing, man, this is a mission. And I can understand why a lot of men don't want to do it, because it's a life of service. Now you have to literally kill your old self to service your family, your legacy, and more importantly, your marriage, right? I can understand why most men don't want to do that. But there's a bigger, better purpose. And for me, it's my seed, seeing my legacy grow, seeing a younger version of myself who is better than me.
I love that. And you, I feel like, have to balance masculine energy in order to show up powerfully to protect, to provide. How do you do that?
Yeah. First, understanding polarity in relationships. I think a lot of men don't understand polarity, right? So, understanding what the role of the man is. And I think that's where social media has kind of confused a lot of men. I do believe that masculinity stands on, provision, being a provider, being a protector, having leadership, but more importantly, being competent and just being emotional intelligent. And I feel like
Mm.
those are the ones where men kind of struggle. And it's when you're called to be a leader, it doesn't mean you're called to be a boss, to boss people around. It means a good leader is someone who's leading from behind, someone who's picking up people when they're falling.
Yes. And what are the skills that you need to do to lead in a relationship? Like, if somebody's like, Lewis, I want to create the relationship, the thriving relationship that you have. What do I need to work on? What belief system do I need to shift? What skills do I need to master? What would that be?
Yeah, yeah. First, you have to have confidence in yourself that you can lead your partner.
Mm.
And first, you have to be able to lead yourself. If you can't lead yourself, how do you expect to lead a relationship, right? So, this is why I do believe that men should be in shape, because it is a representation of who you are and also your daily habits, right? Someone who is in shape, someone who can control what goes into their mouth. Again, you can say no to certain things like, no, I don't smoke. No, I don't drink. No, I'm not overindulging in food. That is discipline, right? That is something that is admired. You can't buy that with money. That's something that is earned, right? And this is why people do. I mean, believe it or not, we all know this. This is the truth. People that are in shape do get taken more serious than someone who's not, right? This is why it's more attractive. But it shows self-discipline. You have to be disciplined with yourself. You have to stick to your word. Your word as a man is everything. If you're not consistent with what you're saying and your actions are not in alignment with what's coming out of your mouth, you can't create a safe place for your woman. Your woman can never step into her true femininity if she does not trust you or feel safe.
Yes, safe is like one of the biggest words in my life right now. When I host events, I want people to feel safe in relationships and friendships. I'm communicating, hey, my highest level priority is to feel safe. If you can create that for me, I will engage in this dynamic. If I feel unsafe at any moment, I will guard up and I will leave. And so I just think being able to make a woman feel safe is literally like the most important thing to do in a relationship. And how do you make your wife feel safe to be able to be in her feminine, to be able to just show up in the world as the amazing person she is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Shifting a woman from her masculine energy into her feminine energy is an art. It's truly beautiful
Yes.
to see that. And it's, believe it or not, for me, like when I know that my wife is in her feminine energy, this is when she starts acting like a little girl. Like the little voice comes out and she's super sweet and she's just soft spoken, and she feels it's almost like she and I can understand why, because that safety, that masculine energy safety, is a reflection of that father energy, right? So that protective energy. So what do I do? Well, first I got to make sure that I'm providing for her, right? Because provision is super important. And a lot of men don't understand this, but you got to be able to take care of yourself and be able to take care of her. So this is why I always say men have to be financially fit. They have to be spiritually fit as well, right? Spiritually fit. What do I mean by that? Well, I operate from the word of God. I am led by God. If God is leading me, she can trust me. If I'm leading myself through my ego, then what I say right now might not align with what I say tomorrow. And this is why we see a lot of men who are categorized as narcissists and so and so, because they have women that go through relationships where their emotions are not regulated. They're all over the place. You get what I'm saying? So being consistent with that and having that strong spiritual foundation is super important. Being emotionally intelligent to understand when things are going wrong in the relationship, because your woman will show you. You just have to start paying attention. Usually when you do have a combative woman or someone who is being disrespectful in certain ways, it's because you are not showing up as that leader, as that provider, as that protector, and she does not feel safe in that environment. So it is your duty as the man to be able to address that, have a backbone, and be able to navigate her back into her feminine energy.
Yes, and the thing that really stood out to me is how you took responsibility. And
Mhm.
that's one of the most important things I think in relationships. And guys, this goes both ways, men and women, but just to take that responsibility on, you know what, if maybe my partner isn't as loving as they usually are, there's something going on with them, instead of just blaming them or calling them a traditional textbook name that go both ways for men and women, it's like, what am I doing to bring that out in them? And guys, this is so important for the men and the women listening to this, is to
Mhm.
ask yourself, what am I doing to bring this out in them? And sometimes it is not going to be your responsibility, but a lot of the time you can course correct, you can show up differently, you can say things differently, you can do things differently to make your partner feel safe. I love watching your content. I just agree with so much of it. It's like a man has to protect and make her feel safe. And the woman's job is to bring the man peace. And if you want safety from your man and the man wants peace from his woman, then you guys both have to take accountability for how am I showing up in this union, in this dynamic, in this love force, to be able to make my partner feel safe and to make my partner feel safe and peaceful. And so, what do you think was the biggest shift that you had to have to be able to show up powerfully for your wife?
The biggest shift that I had to take was letting go of my ego. Before her,
Mm.
and even a couple of relationships back, I had everything. I had everything that a man can want, success, status, good looks, and so and so. So I had a lot of options of women, and you start operating from a place of ego where you stop caring about people and you see people as
Mm.
they can be replaced. If they don't want to be here, I can replace them, right? But that is from a place of ego. And that's just something that you've built up in your head, right? And you're never going to be able to build a connection, a true deep connection with someone unless you allow yourself to get to that place where ego is not present, right? So I think for me, I had to let go of my ego, and I let that go even 2 relationships prior to her.
Mm.
And I felt like life was preparing me for this moment. And now I'm able to understand that when maybe she's not feeling her best, or maybe I communicated something where it didn't sound lovingly, I can go over and reassure her, to be able to get her back into that feminine energy, to get her back into that loving state. A lot of men, I think the two biggest, actually the three biggest reasons why people get divorced is communication,
Hmm.
sex, lack of sex, and also finances, right?
Mm.
I do believe that communication, to have proper communication, you have to be willing to have the difficult conversations,
Yes.
not take it personal, and also take responsibility and accountability for it, right? And you also have to be able to create a safe place for your partner to be able to express how they truly feel about the relationship. The same thing goes for sex, right? And a lot of men, there's tons of men who complain about their wife, their partner. They're in these relationships where they're not having sex. And I always tell guys, like, you have to understand it's difficult for a woman to have sex with you and enjoy it if she does not feel safe. If she does not feel safe, the last thing that's on her mind is giving her body to you. You'll notice that when you do get her in her feminine energy, when she is thriving in that femininity, and she feels safe, respected, and loved, she's going to be jumping on you.
Yes, 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 yes. When you can make her feel safe, valued, and loved, that is going to create that bond. That is going to create that trust that you need to be able to get what you want to create a flourishing relationship. And you need like a million courses on this. I'm sure you already have a bunch, but this is just so crucially important. And if more men did the work, I just feel like there would be more happy relationships out there, and women have to do the work as well. This is a two-way street. Okay. I'm not saying that men need to do all the work and men are the problem. Both parties need to do work. I'm just asking you because you have such a grounded, wise perception of the male psyche and how they need to show up, but it's both partners need to do the work. And I just agree with everything you're saying. And if more men and women both showed up and both took this seriously, and one of the biggest problems I think with relationships is partners show up and like, okay, I need my needs met. Like I want this and this and this, and this is what I want in a partner, and this. And they come from that place of ego and wanting to and it's selfishness. It just is a beautiful recipe for a disaster. But when you take responsibility for your energy and how you show up, you can just help people thrive and create a flourishing, beautiful relationship, not only for that other person, but for yourself. Happy wife, happy life. Okay. You are not just doing this for her, but you are doing this to create peace and love and respect in your own life. Because if your partner is feeling peace and safety and love, guess what she is going to bring to you? Peace and safety and love. So I love all of this. And this has been such an enriching conversation. I'm sad that our time is almost up. But I just am so grateful for you, Luis. I'm so happy that you are going out in the world and sharing your message. And you've been through so much in your life and you still got back up, you still kept pushing, and now you are out there inspiring hundreds of thousands of people across your social media platforms, in your coaching programs. I love, love, love seeing the testimonials of all the lives you're changing. And I'm just so grateful to call you a friend and to just be in the same energy force as people that are doing things and that are showing up and that are in alignment with their 10.0 version of themselves. So I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for everything that has happened in your life, because it's brought you into who you are today. And I'm so excited for your future and congratulations on the big news. And I am just so excited for everything you're going to create, all the lives that you are going to impact with this amazing work that you're doing and all the gifts you're sharing with the world.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I want to take this time to also recognize you. We've known each other for such a long time. Your growth has been incredible. I see what you're doing and I see where you're going, and you've been growing so rapidly. Who you are today is completely different from when we first met. And I'm truly blessed to be able to call you a friend as well. And also see that evolution happen. So
Thank you so much. And yes, I agree. The evolution has been real. It has been tough. It has been messy. There have been lots of breakdowns, but so many worthwhile breakthroughs. And that is what I'm committed to, is showing up for the people that need me. And in order to do that, I have to walk the walk. I have to be in integrity. I have to live the life that I am passionate about sharing with people. And so every day I work on myself, I level up. I barely recognize who I was a month ago. And it stems from knowing my why, knowing my passion, and knowing that I was put here to help people. And in order to help people, I must look in the mirror first. And that is something that we both share. And it's why we are where we are. And we're crushing it. And we're doing big things. And we are magnetizing people and opportunities to us because we are doing the work. We're not talking about it. We are doing the work and taking action, working our butt off, and showing up powerfully for the people that need us. So I'm excited for both of our futures and where we're going and this amazing journey. And I'm happy we crossed paths.
beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know that you have some amazing programs that people can dive into if they want to go deeper, if they want to learn more, if they want to step into their 10.0 version of them. Tell us about how people can work with you and what those programs are.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to work with me, you can just go directly to luismontoyafit.com and you'll land on my page. Just put in your information and you can watch a webinar and you can get a little bit more information about what I do, or you can reach me at Luis Montoya Fit on Instagram. I am a life coach. This is more than just fitness. I evolved the coaching space for myself, and transition from just fitness and connected mind, body, and soul. So this is a full life transformation. I help people become the best version of themselves. It is a faith-based program. I do have three different tiers that you can choose from. There's a bottom tier, which is a great program. And I think I've got a couple thousands on those people, sorry, on that program. So this is a do-it-yourself. This is more kind of like getting back into alignment with your health program. Then there's the one-on-one coaching, which is the mid-tier. This is the personal development coaching. This is where we help you create that 10.0 version of yourself. After you graduate from that, most people get in shape and their friends start asking them like, hey, people want me to start training them. So there's a coaching. The top tier is going to be the consulting program. This is where I teach you how to scale your business, how to turn your passion for helping people into a business, and more importantly, change lives.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so powerful. And guys, I urge you to check out what he is doing and just be blessed by all of the gifts that he is putting out into the world, all of the things that he has learned, that he has amalgamated into this powerful coaching program that is changing lives. If you follow him on Instagram, for a mere couple weeks, you will see all the testimonials in his story because this stuff is working for people and creating the transformation that they desire. So, thank you so much, Luis, for being here. I'm so excited for your future, for my future, for our podcast guest future. And every single day I wake up and I'm just like, this is just the beginning. I'm just so excited about life. And I am just so grateful for you and all the things you're doing. And I'm excited for the future.
Amen. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you very much.
Bye.